Hello, hello. Good morning out there in streaming world. Today is Tuesday, June 17th. You are tuned into the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI Show for short, because we bring you way too much information. That over there is the T of the show, Ted Rall. I'm Manila Chan, and we have a jam-packed show because apparently I got to get moving after after we do this broadcast. Some personal stuff I got to take care of.
Got to motivate.
Geez. I gotta say, Ted, at least this time it's not my own health issue.
Yeah, that's true. I think, Manila, you gave it the office, right? I mean,
I what?
You gave it the office. Your part. You're kind of like not due for anything like that.
Yeah, I think, with a bad 2024 health crises, I think it's somebody else's turn.
Yeah, it's someone else's turn. Yeah,
that I gotta go take care of. So apparently, there's much to get to here in this hour. So join us every Monday through Friday. We're on at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Make sure you hit the like and the follow button, the subscribe button, wherever you're consuming this content. It'll really help our little show continue to grow, especially those on YouTube. We know we have a pretty steady Rumble following, and we appreciate you guys, of course, because you guys keep the chat super hot. But to the YouTube world, we're fairly new, so we need your help in getting to the next level of subscriptions. So if you're watching, please hit that red subscribe button and join us. So on today's show, obviously we can't not talk about more Iran-Israel drama unfolding on live TV. We'll tell you about that. Of course, the G7 summit tangentially tied because, Donald Trump kind of dipped out early. He did the Irish goodbye, Ted, because I'm super racist. I'm using that term. He did the Irish goodbye there at the G7. And then we'll talk about autism. And of course, again, Ted, I insist the Japanese are living in the year 2050 because they've had some breakthrough in some autism research. I think that's a huge deal. I feel like RFK Jr. might be on a plane, an HHS plane, flying over there right now, because
he ought to be.
That's sort of his thing. And then another medical story about the Purdue Pharma multi-billion-dollar settlement. There was drama with that. As you guys probably know, for the last several years, them filing bankruptcy, the Sackler family, and all that drama. So we'll jump into that. And of course, later in the show, our friend of the show, Angie Wong, is joining us to talk about what we believe might be the big breakup between the America First true MAGA base, the populists, versus the MAGA grifters. So we're going to get into that because I think Iran is the crux. I think this is it. Any foreign war is the thing that most MAGA populists are not willing to go along to get along. They are not getting along.
But Manila, when Israel attacks Iran completely without provocation in the middle of peace talks and bombs and kills the chief negotiator for Iran, that's Israel defending itself somehow. I mean, I don't know how, but I was hoping you could explain that to me, because that's what they say. So, but like if I walk up to you in the street and punch you in the face, I'm defending myself from you, and you owe me
because my existence and walking on the same street as you poses a threat.
Inherently. I mean, you could attack any time. All I'm doing is making sure that you're not attacking me. Who could say you weren't going to attack me?
Right? You could ninja skill you at any moment.
Only way I can really make sure that you're not going to attack me is to kill you.
First.
In fact, I should really, to keep myself safe, kill everyone and everything else on the planet. That will keep me safe. Then I'm 100% assured that I will not be harmed.
That's basically the political calculation. If, Ted, only if you had a much bigger big brother that was going to...
But ultimately, I probably would need to kill him too, because you never know. If you're Israel, the U.S. one day could invade you. They could attack. I mean, the U.S. has done it before to lots of other countries.
You could punch me, Ted, but theoretically, then you'd have to be like, John, go get her. Go get her.
She's a danger to me.
She was walking by.
Look at her. It's like, and then John might be like, I don't know, she looks kind of small. No,
she's over there talking shit.
This is like the rabbit in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You never know.
It could just be that I run my mouth a lot, Ted, and
could be.
Therefore, you feel threatened.
Mm-hmm.
Could be.
Yeah.
But that's basically, we'll talk about that.
And I have a right to defend myself, Manila. I have a right to defend myself.
Against me espousing my opinions.
And besides which, why won't you admit that I have a right to exist? Why?
Because that in and of itself is an existential threat, Ted.
Because you have to understand, 1900 years ago, people distantly related to me used to live near where you live, which means that really you're in my house. And so you stole my house. And I have a right to exist. And why won't you share? Why are you so selfish?
That's true. I feel like any moment now, some Native American tribe is going to march over to Alexandria, Virginia, and have a word with me about.
Well, they would have a claim. They would have a 500-year-old claim. That's like brand new compared to the Israelis' claim.
I guess that's the premise. So we'll talk about that.
All right, yes, Robbie, go ahead and put that up, and I'll read it when it's up.
We already got an ad, a word from a sponsor. Let's roll.
Oh, we don't have it. We don't have it yet. So when we have it, hey, so do you want to tell us what else we're talking about today?
I thought that was it.
Was that everything?
We're bringing in Angie to talk about the
G7,
the MAGA Civil War.
All right, ad time. If you're looking for a great place online for news, discussion, and entertainment, do check out Truth Social, Donald Trump's social media website. You'll get breaking news stories and commentary from top media figures. If you want to see Trump's legendary Truth Social posts, then get on Truth Social today. Join a growing community of patriots like me on a free speech platform designed to avoid censorship and cancellation by big tech. Make your voice heard. Join the movement. Join Truth Social. All right. I think we're ready to roll.
And really, it's all just Donald Trump 24/7. That's what it is.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, it's worth it for that, honestly, because he is the president of the United States. And so when he has something to say, he says it there first. I wish there was more back and forth with the overall community. That's why I signed up. I wanted to mix it up with the MAGA people. And so maybe they just don't like me. I don't know. Maybe they're mixing it up with each other. Laura Loomer.
The MAGA chicks like Laura Loomer, super hot, Ted.
She is. You know, it's funny. She is hot, but I still like Lauren better. You know,
who's Lauren?
Lauren Boebert.
Oh, Lauren Boebert.
Yeah. If I was gonna go like, you know, MAGA chick style.
You're really you and Jamarl, just the crazy eyes.
It's the crazy eyes. Also, she has a cute little body too, no question.
They both do. I will say that. That's true. Both cute brunettes.
Laura Loomer strikes me as dumber, and that's kind of a
dumber than Lauren Boebert.
Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean this.
All right.
It's a tough call. Admittedly, it's hard to say. We'd have to send them both for testing. I mean, I don't know if either of them could be legally executed in Texas, but
because you need to reach a certain IQ score.
You have to be able to tie your own shoes. You have to have self-awareness, like I'm alive, I'm a human.
There is something weird about how you men, what you're attracted to. I'm just gonna.
By the way, and then there's Marjorie Taylor Greene, who lately has been sounding more sane and more normal than any other politician, Democrat or Republican, in the mainstream. That's where we're at. That's how fucked up we are. When MTG, the one who had the ads of her firing machine gun at like her rivals, when she's the normie, there's something very fucked up.
I'm on board with MTG right now.
Yeah. She doesn't say a word that I disagree with about when it comes to the Israel-Iran thing. And by the way, I
I
love how they're
cannot believe it.
characterizing it in the media as the Iran crisis. The Washington Post editorial board called it that today. There's no Iran crisis. There's an Israel crisis. Israel is the crisis. Their government is causing crises all over the place.
They've got a two-pronged front right now, like, and they're just waiting.
I'd argue
they have on America.
I'd argue it's four. I mean, they're still kind of at war in Lebanon. I would say the West Bank and Gaza are two different things. By the way, do you know what percentage of the West Bank the Palestinian Authority is currently in charge of? I just read this. This is how much land the Israelis have stolen from the Palestinians in the West Bank. Guess what percentage of the West Bank is still actually Palestinian?
20%.
Oh, no, it's better than that. It's 40%.
Oh,
but
okay.
Still,
well,
I mean, that's
less than half.
Yeah, it's insane.
Wow.
The Israelis have literally taken well over half of the West Bank.
Settlers.
Fascists, colonialists.
All right. So with that, let's get over to the news.
Call them a colonialist power. It's not a settler colonial project authored by Great Britain, the ultimate colonial power. Oh, wait, it is. But anyway.
They wrote the book, literally.
Yeah, and issued the proclamation.
There's a playbook. All right, let's get into the news.
Speaking of which, Manila, Israel bombed the headquarters of Iranian state TV in northern Tehran yesterday, setting fire to the facility during a live broadcast hours after it issued evacuation warnings to residents in Tehran. Meanwhile, Trump suggested online that everyone in Tehran, 9.5 million people, ought to evacuate. He hasn't seen the traffic in Tehran the way I have, or he wouldn't say that. Israel said the building was being used to hide military infrastructure. This claim has not been verified. Shocking. Earlier in the day, Israel also attacked the headquarters of the Quds Force. That's an elite branch of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The strikes came on the fourth day of missile exchanges between Israel and Iran. Since Israel began its war against Iran on Thursday, at least 224 people have been killed in Iran and over 1,400 wounded. And in Israel, at least 24 people have been killed and about 600 wounded. Separately, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel said that he's totally considering assassinating the supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei. The State Department, meanwhile, has raised its travel advisory for Israel to the highest level of do not fucking go.
Are we what can we go back to the early 2000s? What threat level color is this, Ted? What color is this?
I guess this
Orange?
would be chartreuse, maybe? Well, no, this would be red, right? This is red.
Is this red?
This is red. I mean, it's like
that was the
don't go.
Bush Jr.
Red. Yeah.
Oh, Bush Jr.'s threat levels. Remember those colors,
yeah, I
you
remember
guys?
the color-coded ones.
Like the red was like the like absolute like do not travel, and then there was orange. It's like,
well, those
seems pretty
those
bad.
Advisories were different. No, they were. I mean, they're analogous, but basically, those were about the likelihood of a terror attack by terror folks here in the U.S.
Right.
And like red was like they're already in your house, fucking your cat. You know, that's so. Yeah,
they're in your toilet bowl like alligators in the New York sewer system.
that's right.
Ready to come up.
I knew someone who lived in Bushwick, which was a gentrifying part of Williamsburg, and she was sitting on the bowl one day, and a rat came popping out from the and hit.
No.
Didn't bite her, but hit her on her tuchus. So I was like, huh. So then I was like, is that true? And I looked it up. It's actually true that rats do travel between apartments, in part, usually through the walls, but also through the pipes.
Well, that's the Iranian terror threat that we're at, because they, according to Benjamin Netanyahu, I don't know. So I know we haven't made huge leaps and bounds yet, Ted, in like the science area of time travel. But Benjamin Netanyahu, for at least the past 20, 25 years ish, has been saying that the Iranians were going to have nukes in like less than 3 years. So I don't know what the math is over 25 years. Every 3 years, it's 3 years from now, and then like 3 weeks from now. I've heard some reports say 3 weeks from now. So I don't know if these are like parallel, you know what I mean? Like parallel time frame.
Yeah. This is like the multiverse, right?
Right. It's the multiverse theory of when Iran is going to have a nuclear
Well, so under the
weapon.
Israeli theory, Iran already has acquired and used nuclear weapons and has killed everyone else, and we're already dead. And it's a World War III already happened, and Israel is now trying to go back in time, like to kill the Terminator, in order to avoid the Terminator from killing.
I see. Benjamin Netanyahu,
who's the head of the resistance.
I see. So this is
in
the
this
multiverse.
Parallel universe, he's a pleasant, nice, reasonable person.
So this is in the multiverse where Bibi is the good guy trying to save humanity from
it's
Iran.
Like Spock with a beard. It's like that. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the world we're living in, and where they're the victims of everyone's aggression. And
by the way, it is a war crime to blow up a media facility on purpose.
That's true.
Not that it hasn't been done before, but it's still a war crime.
And we should point out that a friend of the show, we've had on our old Sputnik show. I used to have on my old RT show. Professor Syed Mohammed Morandi was in the building at the time of this hit. There was talk swirling about supposedly he was the target of this. Yeah. Because he is one of the negotiators of the first JCPOA and then the second JCPOA and this round. He is one. I don't know if he's I take that back.
I don't know that a negotiator is a legitimate target in a conflict. I mean, certainly I understand killing the generals and people like that.
Yeah. So
not that I don't think
if you don't want the U.S., your chief financier, to progress in making a peace deal, then you kill as many negotiators as you can.
Not to mention, it's not that specialized of a skill. It's like, what, the Iranians can't find another negotiator? I mean, what are the Israelis thinking?
But really? the fact is, Professor Morandi, was in during the first Trump administration. He was in those first talks to try to revive the JCPOA, and he was part of the negotiators. And his English is excellent, Ted. He came to school in the States and spent much of his young adult life here. So,
well, a lot of Iranians who are educated, like people around the world, speak English really well. We're the only country in the world where speaking one language is considered normal.
Yeah, I'm totally joking about Professor Morandi being like the one guy that speaks great English. But he's obviously a great wealth of knowledge, and he was in the building. I don't know how badly the building was damaged or destroyed, but he, from what I can tell, there's tweets from the aftermath that he put up. So I think Professor Morandi is okay. We had invited him on the show, but then this happened. So that's probably not going to happen this week, Ted. So, again, Israel is the victim. I just want to be clear, YouTube.
They're only
Israel
defending
is the
themselves.
victim. This is
They've
anti-Semitic.
been defending themselves against the Syrians. They've been defending themselves against the Gazans. They've defended the shit out of themselves. They're defending themselves against a lot of babies.
I want to be clear about all the
babies are the most dangerous of all Palestinians, because people think, oh, look how small they are and they look helpless, but they're just scheming. It's all just a look.
Well, yeah, they're born into terror, Ted.
Right, they're terror
babies.
Terror babies.
They're terror babies, and the anti-Semitism needs to stop. So
and you have to root it out at the baby level. At
the baby level, at the negotiator level, because those guys pose a threat to anti-Semitism, I guess.
Right.
So you go after professors.
Well, yes, they say that professors are the most ignorant and uneducated of all people. So you start with them, and first they came for the professors, then they came for the babies, and so on, or something.
So
anyway, we have a lot to get.
we're glad that he's okay. Yeah.
Let's keep going. Trump kicked off his time at the G7 summit yesterday by suggesting that Russia and maybe China should join it and become the G8 or maybe the G9. Trump said that it was a very big mistake to get rid of Russia in 2014 after it annexed Crimea, in a move that presaged the 2022 Russo-Ukrainian conflict. The comments added more complexity regarding Trump's interests as he's set to meet Tuesday with Zelensky about ending that war. The G7
I guess that's not happening.
Probably not. The G7 used to be the G8. Obama and a person named Trudeau didn't want to have Russia in. I hope he's not blaming fellow cartoonist Gary Trudeau, but he was actually referring to Justin Trudeau, who was elected prime minister actually the year afterwards, so it had nothing to do. Stephen Harper was actually the PM of Canada at the time. I think you wouldn't have a war right now if you had Russia in, and you wouldn't have a war right now if Trump were president 4 years ago, Trump said. Well, that first part I totally agree with. The second part I don't agree with.
Kind of got a point.
Yeah. They threw Russia out, which I claimed was a very big mistake, even though I wasn't in politics then. I'd just like to point out, Manila, that obviously the president listens to the TMI show, because you remember my rant yesterday about this exact topic, right? And then like an hour or two later, he goes and says this. So obviously, Mr. President, we appreciate your support, but don't be a cheapskate. I know you finally became rich, Mr. President. So, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, the donate button on YouTube.
That's true.
Let's hit the tip jar. It's like you can spare a couple of $1 million. No problem. And
I'll take some of that crypto.
It would mean a lot to Manila now. Yeah, we'll take some of that Trump coin, Melania coin.
For sure.
Ivanka coin, anything you have. Anyway, Trump added that Putin is no longer at the table, so it makes life more complicated. This is exactly what we were talking about yesterday, Manila.
Oh my God.
Asked by a reporter if China should also be added. China. Trump said, it's not a bad idea. I don't mind that if someone wants to just see China coming in. I agree it's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's all the lead. This is retrofitting. Now they're saying the spin, Manila, here is, it's only for democracies and all that. I mean, to the extent that the U.S. even is a democracy.
Right.
But first of all, Russia is a democracy. They have elections. I mean, I know.
But the +1, don't forget, Ted, they had the +1 yesterday, which is the +1 being Ukraine, who I'm sorry, where is the democracy there?
Not that much democracy there.
You're running on martial law. There's no elections. You've canceled basically a free press. There's only Ukrainian state media. There are no religions allowed there. None.
The state Ukrainian religion is allowed, but all others
don't be religioning up in there.
Yeah, and opposition politicians are under house arrest or in prison being tortured. So yeah.
So why do they get to be the +1?
The G7 was never about democracies anyway. Ostensibly, it was about the biggest economies in the world. That's what it was about. And so, I mean, I'm sorry, you leave China and Russia out, you're not really covering the biggest economies in the world.
Right.
So,
it's not a real premise.
Trump is right about that. Anyway, he said that it was important for world leaders, to be able to speak with each other at summits. Putin speaks to me. He doesn't speak to anybody else, Trump said. He doesn't want to talk because he was very insulted when he got thrown out of the G8, as I would be, as you would be, as anybody would be. I mean, he's radically simplifying things, as Trump does. But it's also true, what he's saying.
There's always nuggets and kernels of hard facts and reality whenever Trump speaks. It's always oversimplified. I don't know if that's how he just breaks it down in his brain, or if he's doing that meticulously to verbalize it to us because
I think he understands that Americans really need they need their messaging to have the simplicity of a bumper sticker.
It's like a baby bird. You know what I mean? Like Mama Bird.
She chews everything up and then regurgitates it.
Right.
Yeah, so
Trump Mama Birding us.
Whether he's too dumb to absorb the complex information in a way that's not radically simplified, or he just thinks we are, the effect is still the same. It works because it's simple. It works with most of the public because nobody has time. I remember one time reading that like something ridiculous, like 90% of the time one of your friends forwards you a news article,
okay,
they themselves have not read the article.
90%?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in other words, they see the headline, and it's like, it'll be like, Laotian terrorists taking over eastern United States. So I'm like, oh my God, that's a Manila story. Send it right away. But then I don't read it. And I just read the headline. That's all.
Oh, wow. That's frightening. Okay, so maybe Trump gets it more than any of us
He may have
idiots
blundered
bother to
into it
read.
accidentally. Doesn't matter. I mean, I don't know.
Well, so the point is he's not there. He dipped out early. And he's back here in DC, and the Security Council is I don't know, I guess underway. And that was where the big hubbub was, is that did Trump rush back to put together a war plan or put together a peace plan? Now, he's denied the peace plan part. I'm happy he's not meeting with Zelensky, because that blowhard doesn't need any more of America's time or money. But
plus Zelensky is still doing so many photo shoots for magazines. He's scheduled for Car and Driver next week. He'll be on Bird Talk.
He's going to be driving an Aston Martin.
There's been some controversy because his wife is going to be on the cover of Cat Fancy. So, and in the cat community is very pro-Russian. So that's
because of the blues.
Because of the Russian blue situation.
Because of the blues.
Feline
yeah,
solidarity.
That makes sense.
So
that makes sense. So anyway,
Fish and Tackle, that would also be.
Look, I think
Field and Stream.
I'm not even kidding, Ted. I think he forced himself, like he's the party crasher. He's the +1 to the G7 right now, because he's really pissed that the world's eyes have shifted to Iran and Israel.
Oh, that's true.
I really think he's pissed that Ukraine's out of the news cycle. I honestly believe that. Like,
in fairness, though, it might,
really
we can characterize it that way. But in fairness, from his point of view, he could say, "My country's under attack. I'm losing a war. The Russians are about to overrun us. It's a crisis. We need to rally support for."
And he's probably freaked out. He's got to be freaked out that Trump's parting words were, "Hey, you should invite Putin back here to the G7 and make it the G8."
Well, I've always said I thought it was a mistake to toss out the Russians. I mean, like if invading a foreign territory gets you thrown out of the G7, how the fuck is the U.S. in it? I mean,
why are we in any group?
I mean, yeah. Let's keep going though.
All right.
A landmark discovery by scientists has uncovered a common genetic fault linked to autism. Researchers at Kobe University, Japan, found that many of the mutations associated with autism appear to disrupt the brain's natural maintenance system. It's a process that clears out waste and damaged material from your brain and allows your brain cells to function the way they're supposed to. When this system fails, as the study suggests is the basis of most cases of autism, the waste builds up inside the nerve cells, which damages their ability to send and receive signals. This breakdown might explain some of the core features of autism: difficulties with learning, language, and social skills. The research, published in Cell Genomics, focuses on identifying which kind of high-risk genetic variants actually do what they do inside the brain. Scientists have known for years that certain mutations are more common with victims of autism, but until recently there was no standardized way to study those mutations or their effects. To fix the problem, the Kobe people created a library of 63 engineered cell lines which are genetically identical, allowing researchers to conduct consistent experiments. Each one carried one of the mutations most strongly associated with ASC, autism spectrum conditions. They were created using mouse embryonic stem cells, which have the unique ability to develop into any kind of tissue, including brain cells. To introduce the mutations, they used CRISPR, which edits genes and allows precise changes to DNA. They then modeled autism in the lab, basically creating autism in a dish. From these modified autism cells, the team then grew new kinds of brain tissue and even generated adult mice with the same mutations, which allowed them to study how the genetic mutations affect both the brain structure and the behavior over time. Across many of the mutations, they found out that the brain's waste disposal system wasn't working. Brain cells, particularly neurons, which carry the electric signals bouncing around and control thought, emotion, and behavior, were struggling to get rid of the faulty internal components. A lack of quality control of these proteins may be a causal effect of neuronal defects. In other words, autism, but not just autism. These same mutations are also found in people who have bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and other mental health issues. As the authors say, interestingly, the genetic variants we studied are also implicated in schizophrenia and other neuropsychiatric disorders. So, people have been, there's no question there's been a huge a big spike in autism diagnoses. And it's been very controversial. People who in the anti-vax community have long been convinced that their children were impacted by the mercury used to preserve vaccines and so on. Big Pharma and the government have said that there's no evidence of that, and that controversy has raged, and this may not settle that, but we do know there's a lot more autism than there used to be, or at least more diagnoses. And so the question is, A, why? B, like how? And C, how can it be fixed? This points to A, B, and C. So it's a big deal.
Well, I kind of feel like we're not looking because you got to, some of the funding and the studies are, many, I should say, are actually very biased. So it depends on who's doing
that's the problem.
The funding research.
I honestly am agnostic on this. I just want to know the truth. I don't. I'm open-minded.
Mercury.
I'm open-minded to these parents of children with autism. I don't think they're idiots, and I know a bunch of them.
Mercury. But as we know, mercury is a neurotoxin.
Oh, yeah, no, mercury is very.
We already know that.
Yeah, they call it Minamata disease. Speaking of Japan, right? Originally,
so
it was Minamata disease.
I'm going to go with the Japanese are living in 2050, and if they're figuring out like some genetic mutation and how your brain, basically, like it sounds like your brain has its own kidneys, right? Like, because that's what kidneys do, right? Is flush out. So basically, your brain has this area. And it goes to show how little we know about the human brain after all these years, and like movies like Frankenstein, that have been around for ages since film began. We've been obsessed with how the human brain works and how little we actually understand about it. 150 years into, maybe even longer, of people studying brains, and only to just now realize the brain has its own like kidney section that kind of flushes out the toxins. That's fascinating. I would love to delve into that world if I had the time and energy and resources, which I don't. But I find it really, like, neuroscience is really fascinating because obviously, I mean, what I would love to understand Trump's brain, for example. Like,
I think Trump would like to understand Trump's brain. Melania certainly would like to. Let's go ahead and
his brain worked out for this. His brain worked out, Ted, to the point that he became a multimillionaire. So that's all Melania needed to know.
If we have time, we can hit the big pharma settlement, which is kind of related to this, but we can do that.
It's sort of related. So let's head over. I see our friend Angie Wong is sitting there in the background.
Why don't you tee it up?
We're going to bring her on after the Jaws.
Angie.
All right. So the thing that we're bringing Angie on for is, I would say, a lot of people have been talking about this for a long time, Ted, for not a long time, but at least the last couple of months, is that there is this fracture within the MAGA community. And I would argue, and this is my own assessment, is that there are a lot of political elites out there, like Lindsey Graham, for example, or in so-called conservative world, like Ben Shapiro, who were never Trumpers.
Well, they're old school Republicans, right? I mean,
they're super neocon, like, scratch them a little bit deeper and you find John McCain. That's all it is.
Old school Republicans. Yeah.
So
there's different varieties of old school Republicans. There were the country club Republicans.
They should be the McCainians, like that's
corporate
really
Republicans and all that. But basically, they're old school Republicans.
So these guys have glommed on to the America First MAGA movement, whereas the MAGA populist
they didn't glom
base
onto it. They were forced in. They had no choice. The Trump and the MAGA movement conducted a hostile takeover of the Republican Party.
That's true.
And then the Republicans who were in there still had a choice. They could either go along or get thrown out. They decided, many of them decided to go along.
Well, I believe they're infiltrators.
But they didn't. But they didn't. It's more like the revolution took them over, and they're pretending to wave the red flag as like Mao goes by.
They're pretending to put on the red cap.
Inside their hearts, they're counter-revolutionaries, and they're waiting for their chance to stab Trump in the back.
So I think that's what's happening here, and it's all revolving right now around our response to Israel trying to drag the United States into war. And so you have people like Laura Loomer, who's like really in Donald Trump's ear. You have Ben Shapiro, he's over there in the background talking really fast, and Trump doesn't understand what he's saying. So he's kind of like, yeah, I'll go with that. And then you have, of course, Lindsey Graham, who is the soulmate of John McCain, who there's no war that he won't sign on to, that he won't send American troops to. So this is the crux.
Someday he and John McCain will both be in the same place so they can talk about it.
That's true. They'll be reunited one day. Mm-hmm. So to talk more about that, who else better to discuss it than our old friend Angie Wong?
Angie.
Hi, guys. I'm just trying to follow your line of thinking there. Most of it is true, I guess. But, as the world turns, right? Every 20 seconds, like the MAGA world has changed and evolved into something else. Right now, it's like I'm just trying to keep up with it all because it is changing and evolving. You don't know who the rhinos are. You don't know who the pretenders are. And even that's changing because Elon Musk threatened to open a third party and he could finance it. So like you're seeing that fraction as well of people going, that might be a good idea. So yeah, no, I mean, it's right now, Trump's in power. He's going to be there for the next 4 years. We're going to follow our leader and we're going to see where all of this goes. But yeah, no, it's like every 20 seconds, the news cycle just evolves.
So, Angie, okay. So a lot of the people who helped push Trump over the finish line were people I more or less identify with is the Libertarian Party, right? They played a huge role in gathering their supporters to not vote for their own candidate, but vote for Donald Trump. But now the Libertarians, like comedian Dave Smith, has turned on Donald Trump because of Trump's incessant position on backing Israel, no matter what Benjamin Netanyahu does. Dave Smith is, I would say, the de facto leader of the Libertarian Party right now. And he's turned on Trump. He's calling for his impeachment. He's saying, like, if Trump does this, if Trump sends troops on behalf of Israel, then that's an impeachable offense. What do you say to all those libertarians who are like, yeah, this is not America first. This is Israel first.
I don't know if that's what people are saying, but if libertarians are saying that, guess what? Trump's going to be in office for all 4 years. There's nothing David Smith or anyone else is going to be able to do. He has been elected. He's there for a 4-year term. David Smith can't impeach him. Under what jurisdiction can he impeach him?
But he's calling for it, and he's calling for all the supporters to dump Trump because his premise is that if Donald Trump sends American troops to war for Israel, then that is somehow an impeachable offense. Do you think people will get behind that? There's a lot of MAGA people that are not into this idea of sending American troops for Israel.
And you know what? And so our 8 senators who yesterday created a bill making sure that the U.S. does not send troops to war over this conflict unless it goes through Congress. So there's a lot of people calling for it. and calling for it to be done the right way if we were to march into another conflict over there. And it seems like we are getting dragged in overnight. There's been lots of military activities, lots of our U.S. equipment and military and aircraft carriers and planes and everything headed into the Middle East. So we're seeing all of the posturing, but maybe that's all it is. Maybe it is just all posturing. People, I've learned throughout the Trump years to not react right away. It almost like you have to give yourself 48 hours to react to any of the news, because what we do know covering wars is that the media is being used all day, all night to push a war agenda for politicians, right? We've seen this over and over and over again. We are used to push a message, to fear monger, to give whatever is coming out, but we have no evidence of it. I mean, have you seen like the underground nuclear, advancements? Have you seen, I've even heard that things were being buried in mountains. Like, have you seen this? Can you verify this?
No, that's true. That there's no question that they have nuclear research facilities, buried under the mountain. The only question is, what's in those facilities, right? Like, is it just nuclear power and nuclear research the way the Iranians claim? Probably is. I tend to believe the Iranians, because for the simple reason that they never had to be part of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. They joined it voluntarily. They don't. It's kind of like they could just say, we're not interested and we're going to become a nuclear power. They're not breaking any law or anything. It's like they have every right to have a nuclear weapon if they can. And there's no law against it. I mean, lots of countries have them. Nobody asks permission. There's no nuke license that you apply for and that you get.
There isn't.
So I mean,
you and I couldn't get one.
No, well, I mean, I could hook us up. Clovis could probably help. But Angie, I mean, I think Trump is obviously in a very difficult position here, because I think it's very clear he does not want to get involved in this Iran-Israel conflict. It's also very clear that he opposed it. He asked Bibi Netanyahu not to do it. He said, at least let the talks play out. The Israelis went ahead and ignored them. And then Trump had Marco Rubio issue a statement saying that the Israelis did this unilaterally. We're not involved. So it's basically the messaging is very clear. And he was also asked by Netanyahu, hey, we'd like to whack the Ayatollah. And Trump said, no, the Iranians haven't killed a single American. We're not going to get behind that. We veto that. So, but at the same time, obviously, he's got the pressure from the neocons in Congress, among the donor class, inside the traditional old-fashioned GOP, who are like, Israel no matter what, Israel is defending itself. So he's getting the squeeze, right? I mean, Trump is getting it from both sides. He has his base that's not pleased about the idea of going to war for Israel. And he's got the OG Republicans who are pro-Israel no matter what, not to mention a bunch of Democrats. So, I mean, he has to thread this needle, right? I mean,
maybe.
Is that not how you look at it?
I actually don't know. I mean, I'm kind of reserving judgment on this. Ted, do you remember a year ago, we reported on our old show about the helicopter crash near Tehran that took out the president, the foreign minister of Iran, a lot of his deputies, a few Ayatollah members, his security, everything like that. Mm-hmm. They were, I mean, like right afterwards, I thought there was going to be a regime change, but no, it was like a triple down. Like, no, we're going to go full force on our agenda. Even though you took out our top people, whoever came in next, I'm sorry, I don't remember the latest president's name. They just continued onward. So I think that, I think back on that day that would have been a moment where things could have turned around for Iran. But it didn't.
I think it's the opposite. I mean,
it went further.
I've been to Iran, and the government is not popular. It's probably, I would guesstimate, 15 to 20% of the country is enthusiastically supportive of the government, which is pretty bad. The Iranian people, they're nothing like this. Okay, they drink, they smoke, they party. They're wild people. They're not like
They have dog parks.
They have
all the dog parks we saw.
They are. They don't like their government, but they're also patriotic and nationalistic. And when Israel, who's the country that they hate the most, is like pushing them for regime change, that's pushing the Iranian people into the arms of the regime. It's literally like, it's almost like Israel is working for the Ayatollah and like and helping them. I mean, literally, it's the last people. Like if you left Iran alone to its own devices, got rid of all the sanctions, reintegrated it into the world economy, had lots of tourism where they got to meet Americans and Europeans all the time, then the government would crumble of its own accord.
Ted,
you just have to stand
Ted,
back and watch.
Ted, it's kind of like after 9/11, George W. Bush, W was wildly unpopular already.
Yes, great example.
And then immediately after 9/11, everybody, Democrats,
91%
everybody,
approval rating, American flag on the back of every car.
everyone loved W.
Right? Yeah.
Everyone loved Merca. And then, you know, a couple years later, we're like,
he had a 38%
WTF.
approval rating before 9/11. Yeah, no, that's right.
Right. I mean, I forgot your original question, Ted. But
well, do you think that Trump is between a rock and a hard place, between like the sort of the nationalists who are America first and the globalists who are looking to support Israel?
No, again, I reserve judgment because I don't know all of the context, but my feeling is that Trump, Marco Rubio, and others, I think they almost yellow lit this operation. They knew about it. It wasn't a surprise to them. They were pulling out Americans out of the region days, if not weeks before the attacks and the strikes happened. It's almost, again, we can talk about it here on the show because I can pull back and look at the context, right? We know that Iran is Putin's BFF, right? They work together. They supply weapons back and forth to one another, oil, etc. We also know that the U.S. supplies weaponry and money to Israel. So if you really pull back the curtains here, who's fighting whom? Is this a proxy war, or is this really a war between Israel and Iran? And I think we could call it a war at this point because it's been going on for several days and they're attacking each other between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. almost every single night. So, you got to look at the context of that. And then you put the Trump world into that, right? Can Trump actually deliver a Ukraine-Russia peace deal with Iran still over here, supplying stuff? And maybe that's what this is about. And that's why I'm kind of reserved, because I'm looking at this more of a larger context. And if you look at who's actually still buying oil from Iran, well, guess what? The EU is buying a lot of oil from Iran. So you have all of this big muck in a pot. And so it's not as easy to say, well, MAGA world is pro-Israel no matter what, because there's so many different facets to that, right? And I don't have a clear answer other than, I guess the default answer for Republicans, pro-Israel, rah, rah. But it's not that simple, especially for those who understand.
But not the MAGA base. The populists are America first. We have problems here. Let's work on the problems that we have here at home before we give money to the Israelis and maybe start World War III.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's already started. I wonder if it started last Friday with all the strikes that have been going on. And I'm sure intelligence will tell you that, there's a lot of people who were forewarned about this. They didn't say anything. They yellow lit it. And then when the strikes happened, the lines were drawn. What was interesting, though, over the weekend was that Trump and Putin had a 50-minute phone call. I wonder what they discussed there, right? I wonder if this was Trump putting on the pressure to say, we're gonna start bringing in troops in the area, and guess what? You're gonna have to get involved. If you don't want this, tell your guys over in Iran to stop. I don't know. I'm guessing. Obviously, we weren't on the phone call, but there is so many different facets to this, and I don't think that. I watch the reports. I'm on some of these reports, kind of echoing, the MAGA talk. And I think to myself, hang on, there's a whole lot more going on here. You don't want to bite your tongue 2 days down the road because the message, as I said earlier, the media is being used to push a particular message out. Why are we being used? Well, we've seen this in previous wars, right? We are there to drum up the American support so that we could go in to, let's say, Tehran or wherever we have to fight, so that Americans
the media will never get
good
us
about
there.
it.
The media will never.
You don't
get
think
us
so?
Over, no,
I think we're getting close, Ted.
The approval ratings, I mean, for a siding with Israel against Iran are so low among both Democrats and Republicans that I don't think any amount of propaganda is enough to get you over the line to where you get to the tipping point.
Tulsi Gabbard, in her first briefing to Congress like 3 months ago, she is the director of national intelligence. She is the DNI. She specifically said in that first testimony that she gave, she specifically said there is zero evidence that the Iranians were working towards a nuclear weapon.
That's the assessment of the intelligence community.
And she's the DNI. She is tasked with telling the president the lowdown.
There is zero evidence.
The culmination of all the intelligence agencies out there. She's supposed to be the one go-to source, and that's what she delivered to the president. That's what she delivered to Congress. And she said, no, there at this time, there is zero evidence.
Look, America we lose all our wars. We invaded Afghanistan. They didn't even have an air force. We still lost. Iraq, easy to walk in, not easy to stay. We lost. I don't think there's any appetite for it. I mean, Americans know we can't invade Iran anyway. It's massive. It's much bigger than Iraq, and we were never able to occupy Iraq. And Iran's much bigger. I mean, Iran's too. I mean, here's the thing: Israel's the aggressor. If the war is going to stop, it's because they stop it. The Iranians can't surrender or stop firing at Israel because the government will be overthrown by the Iranian people if they stop fighting back against the Israelis. So they won't stop. They'll fire until they've shot their last bullet because they have to for survival. That's my assessment.
So let me ask you guys a question. Okay, so over the last not even week yet, just the past few days, we were told that Iran they're almost 90% completed in having a nuclear weapon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No.
Okay, that's what's being sold to us.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying all day long online.
Well,
Bibi also said that they tried to kill
the
President Trump
WMDs
twice.
too.
Right. This feels a little bit like WMD. This feels a little bit like Follow the Signs to me because I haven't seen the evidence. Right? It's got that.
The countries even have the first 3 letters out of 4.
What? I haven't had enough coffee to understand that one.
You know, Iran and Iraq, they
swap out the Q and the N.
Yeah. I mean, it's so easy that it fits on the smallest of all bumper stickers, you know.
This is like all WMD. Yeah, if you put out the bumper sticker from the year 2003 and just cross out the Q and put in an N, same thing.
I feel like we're on Sesame Street. Okay, what was I talking about? I don't remember. But basically,
Bibi's the source.
You said the 90%. You said that we're being sold that the idea that they're 90% close to
there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then, of course, we see, the skies lit up at night, right? Everyone's fighting each other. We see buildings being bombed. We see, high-level officials and getting taken out. So we're seeing those imagery. We're being told we're marching towards war because they have a nuke. And they're going to go after Israel because that's their number one target. We're also told there's 700,000 Americans in Israel right now. All right, we're told all these things. At what point do we just go with it and we believe it? Because I'm hearing it all day, all night on Twitter, as I'm sure you are.
We're all
same
hearing
tactic as 2003. That's the thing. Wall-to-wall coverage. Iran has a nuke, but nobody is bothering to play the actual testimony from Tulsi Gabbard, literally less than 90 days ago, of her saying there is no nuclear weapons
program.
And they're not and they're not going to play it. Angie,
why? Why don't you guys play it? You've got a show here.
Okay, but the point is, it needs to be on like Fox and NBC and CNN and MSNBC.
But
it's not going to happen. But I mean, so to answer your question, Angie, I think we're just like it's a different sort of set of circumstances. Back in 2002, during the buildup to the invasion of Iraq, when the propaganda mill was going fast. The Bush administration had a big advantage that the supporters of Israel do not have. The American people were deeply traumatized by 9/11. We haven't had a terror attack since then. So there isn't that recent memory where people are freaked out. And also the Iranians, there's also the whole thing that now once burned, twice shy, right? We got conned in Iraq, and the American people don't want to get conned again. And finally, it's kind of like, okay, so let's just say this is all true. Oh, Israel might get nuked, but I don't live in Israel. So, it's like, sucks to be them.
They have their own army. Hashtag never again. Okay, so here's the
Not to mention, we pay their army. We're already nice. We give them $4 billion a year.
Here's Tulsi Gabbard. Here's Tulsi Gabbard from March 25th. So literally less than 2 months ago. Okay, so here's what she says.
Cyber operations and capabilities also present a serious threat to U.S. networks and data. The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program. In the past year, we've seen an erosion of a decades-long taboo in Iran on discussing nuclear weapons in public, likely emboldening nuclear weapons advocates within Iran's decision-making apparatus. Iran's enriched uranium stockpile is at its highest levels and is unprecedented for a state without nuclear weapons. Iran.
IC is intelligence community for people who are wondering.
So is this kabuki theater? Is this what we're watching?
Which part?
Is this real? No, look, obviously intelligence changes as well. I mean, 90 days is a long time, but and this is what I mean. I think we should all just reserve judgment for a little bit. And I see that the BBC and other large networks are doing the same. They're just reporting on what's being tweeted, on press releases, things that they can confirm, and then they attribute the sources to those who say it. They're not really taking a strong position on it, and I think that's exactly right, because in the fog of war, we don't know where these sources are coming from. We don't know what the intentions are. Last night, you also had Tehran come out and say, we're not doing anything with the nukes. I don't know what Bibi's talking about, right? So
I believe the Iranians.
I believe Tulsi Gabbard, and I believe the Iranians. If those two go, are saying basically the same thing from two very disparate camps,
right?
I'm inclined to believe that they are not working towards a nuke.
Correct.
And it's a religious society, right? I mean, the supreme leader of the country is basically the Pope of Iran, right? And the Pope of Iran has issued a religious edict against nuclear weapons. He's like, they're immoral. They're against Islam. They're bad. I mean, and this is and you and I might say, oh, that's just like gamesmanship, but a religious society is ruled differently than ours. They can't just sort of say one thing and then just like, oh, I just said that for the public. Like, you guys go. It's like they can't do that.
Well, I hope they play this clip over and over again of Tulsi saying that. Now, what was interesting from one source that I saw, who was not invited to last night's emergency meeting with the National Security Council? Oh, Tulsi Gabbard in the White House, right? Now, again, that was just one report. Who knows? I don't think there's any
Robbie has a question for you, Angie. Do you want to pop Robbie on and have him ask?
Okay, hold on. All right, Robbie.
Robert.
Howdy.
Robbie.
How you doing?
I'm great.
No, I just have a quick question from you, just from, I guess you can call it Main Street MAGA world from which I reside. So the question that I have, and a lot of people have a similar political persuasion to what I've got to have, is what is the Republican Party doing? Because when Trump was elected, the mandate that he had was America first. So bring down inflation, make it where people actually start buying these things called houses again, do something about healthcare,
the border,
focus on domestic issues, the border security. The question I have is, how is Ukraine, or how is Iran making decline insurance claims for people who need to have, I don't know, cancer surgery? Or How is Iran behind keeping the borders open now that Trump's kind of just backpedaling on? Oh, we're going to let the illegals stay here who are working in restaurants and farms. I mean, how is this America first? I mean, we literally have members of Congress who are saying that we have to defend Israel. One of which, Brian Mast, wore an Israeli military uniform into Congress. Then you have congressmen have their AIPAC person and their Israel flag, telling us how we have to support Israel no matter what. Maybe not with men, but definitely we're funding it. We are providing. We are paying for everything. How is that America first? And
well, Brian Mast is also IDF, right? He was one of the only members to do both, the U.S. military and IDF. Good question. I love it. Trump can't help himself. He loves the foreign stuff. No, lose what? He's in for his last term. No, that's what you guys don't get.
No. Here's how he's going to lose. He's not going to get impeached. The Republican Party that you're plugged into, y'all are going to get wrecked in the midterms because people like me, we're not going to turn out for you. You're going to lose, and you're going to lose massively. And when the Republicans get their asses kicked, they need to look at their AIPAC bitches, and they need to say, it is your fault. That is not America first. This is a betrayal of the mandate that Trump won. He won the popular vote by America first. He won the black vote because of America first. He won the Hispanic vote because of America first. We're $37 trillion in debt. We are enabling a genocide in Gaza that we are paying for. And now we get dragged into a war with Iran, and no one can tell me how that's a good idea. How does Iran hurt me? Specifically, how does Iran hurt me?
Well, Robbie, I hope you remind President Trump and his advisors this every single day, because that's a really relevant question. You're right. We voted you in to do a job, not to win a Nobel Peace Prize, which is what he's angling for, right? And I get that. He got dragged into these wars. He thought he could do it in 24 hours. He realized Putin's a lot smarter than him. And he's got to realize that by now. Same with Xi. Here's the funny thing, and I don't want to not answer your question. I just don't have an answer for you. But here's what I realized.
Well, the Republican Party doesn't either. That's the problem. That's the problem.
And I think you're right. I think we're going to, not a slaughter, but we're going to face a very tough midterms. This is the one thing I've realized over the last couple of days.
Because of that, or because of Rall's
question? No, there's so many issues. Even the border issue. A lot of people, where I am in Miami, seeing the ICE deportation buses. Guess what? It's not really working for the Latino communities, and it is at the same time. That's a whole other issue.
Getting rid of all the gangbangers and criminals, not like
it's a whole other
moms.
issue. It's not a great visual in communities like mine. But back to just one observation that I kind of saw a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks ago. I realized that Trump wants exactly the same thing Putin and Xi wants, right? Which is expansionism. All three of them are going for exactly the same thing using three different methods, right? Xi wants the South China Seas, maybe Taiwan, even though that's questionable because pretty much China's all in there anyway. Putin wants Eastern Europe, and Trump wants Greenland, Canada, Panama Canal, and the Gulf of America, right? So essentially,
the Western Hemisphere.
Essentially,
what does Israel want?
What does Israel want? Israel?
What does Israel want? Because ultimately,
I don't want to speak on behalf of Israel, but essentially they want to exist and they want more. That's a big issue. I think, in my opinion, I think they want all of Gaza stripped back, and they want to push the Palestinians completely out of there, push them into Egypt or push them somewhere else where they can now build a nice beach resort. I know Ted has said that. I've taken his words out of his mouth, and have the Hiltons and the Marriotts and everyone go in there and and have the Riviera. But so I mean, we can't use the word imperialism, but that's kind of what's going on here. I think they're all calling each other, going, "Hey, how are we doing this? Are we going to do this through war? Are we going to do this through the art of the deal? Are we going to do this through kind of economic incentives and just kind of build it out and just own it later on?" You know, it's like these three mega leaders.
I mean, Angie, I like your theory. I actually think there's a lot to it, and it's kind of reminiscent of these are kind of all pretty old guys who at least have some memory of World War II. At least, you know, they grew up when they were kids. World War II wasn't very long ago, right? You know, World War II ended in 1945. Trump was born in 1946, right? So it's like at the end of World War II, at the Yalta Conference, the great powers, the U.S. and the USSR, got together and carved up the world into spheres of influence.
There you go.
And I think that is the vision of these three guys. Now, the thing is that in that world, little countries were considered pipsqueaks to be left out in the hall, like during the Treaty of Versailles in 1919. You guys wait. The big boys are inside with the cartographers. We'll figure out what your country looks like if you get a country, if we decide that you get a country.
Is that what happened?
Israel is a pipsqueak in this equation. They are supposed to be waiting out in the hall.
No.
It doesn't seem that's the thing that doesn't fit here.
Israel owns the United States government because they control Congress through AIPAC. If you pull a Thomas Massey, he's a rarity. He is constantly poking his finger into the eye of the Israel lobby, and he's the one that survives. Most people are afraid of getting primary.
Be broken at some point, right? Like if Trump or someone else or a Democrat were to stand up to the Israeli lobby and just be like, you know what, fuck yourself. Nothing would happen. Nothing would happen, and everyone would see it. And then it's like,
AIPAC would just threaten to primary everybody.
Oh, my beautiful evil! And
the
Israelis, AIPAC would melt.
AIPAC would just threaten to primary everybody and put money behind these primary elections of any congressman that stood up to them. But they don't have the support
in the United States anymore. Like Trump would say, they don't have the cards. They used to. They don't anymore. I mean, approval for Israel is at an absolute record low since 1948. People do not like Israel anymore. It took a long time, but
here's the problem. Here's the problem with that theory, though. You're assuming that people in Washington, D.C. give a damn what people on Main Street think. They don't.
I don't assume that.
They do not. But I think they care about what the donors say.
But I believe in opportunity. And I think if you're a politician, you're always looking for like a grift. You're looking for a way to win where other people are losing. And if you're like the first one who sees it, like Trump was the first person to see some things. Like you don't need, for example, you can win with an entire presidency with just social media account, right? You don't need Trump. You don't need stump speeches. Trump proved that. He saw that. Stump speeches are stupid. Go and just do rallies everywhere. If you're the first politician who sees, like, you know what? I could tell the Israelis to go fuck themselves, and I'd be fine. That's an opportunity for you.
But Miriam Adelson gave him over $200 million.
Mm-hmm.
So he's indebted to her.
It's a different world. We're in a post-genocide world now. The Gaza thing took a long time to really sink into the polls, but now it's there.
Angie, with this, and I'll go away after this, let the smart people talk. Right now, with the dust up that's kind of going on between the populist right. So y'all mentioned David Smith earlier. We've got Tucker Carlson. You have that walking dildo, Mark Levin, just going out, just blasting Tucker, calling Catarlson. Like I just think he's trying to be cute. Who do you think is going to win the soul of the GOP? Is it going to be the populist right? Or is it going to be the country club neocon types like Ben Shapiro and the walking dildo?
Oh, gosh.
I'm dead serious.
Bobby's an anti-baldist. He's a baldist.
So my son turned 16 this year. I have a vested interest. If I do not want my son getting drafted when he turns 18 to go fight some other godforsaken war in another place in the world that most people can't find on a fucking map. I'm sick of it. That's not America first. We can't even pay our freaking bills here. I will never be able to buy a house. Odds are my son won't either.
Yeah,
that's not America first.
Yeah,
and
you cannot just keep doing this forever.
Whoever can address that problem is going to win politically.
Yeah, I 1,000,000%. And that solution can't come fast enough. I know what you mean. I'm like wondering if I even want to put my kids through college at this point because it's so expensive, right? So there's I know there's we have a lot of issues here.
So who wins? Tucker or Levin? No, is it going to be Ben Shapiro's party, or is it going to be Tucker Carlson's party?
I think Zoran in New York City as mayor is good. No, and this is going to be the test.
I hope so. From your
lips
to
is going
God's
to be
ears,
the test, because we're going to see whether or not someone like a Zoran, who no one has heard of until very recently, with a social media account,
don't mess with the Zoran,
right? Who is basically saying no rent, free rent for everybody in New York City. Right. I wonder if that, I know, I think, Robbie, everything you have said, I can see hardcore MAGA people going in that direction because they can't afford groceries.
Yeah, here in New York City, we have that. It's basically a flip side of what's going on within the civil war within the GOP is fascinating because both sides seem pretty evenly matched. So it's not clear who's going to prevail.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a civil war happening.
There is.
I think Tucker is trying to pick fights with everybody right now. Why? Because he's trying to stay relevant and in the news. He realizes his little podcast, it's not, well, his podcast isn't really, picked up some numbers early on, but it kind of like scaled down. And now, so he's trying to partner up with those who make the news. Now, Mark Levin, I get what Tucker is saying, because I have a lot of Jewish friends who keep writing to me, and I really feel like I'm like their therapist, or they are just like, they just need me to believe in the folklore. And I didn't grow up in a Jewish household, so I don't understand that, these guys are Satans and these guys are monsters, because I didn't grow up with the same rhetoric spoken to me for 4 decades, right? And they have, and they're trying to make me, just convince me, like, okay, you go on air, you punch out the Iranians, you do this, and I'm like, why? I just leave me alone. But Mark Levin has the platform. And I kind of understand what Tucker was saying. Like, he is just like he's like a nagging wife, who's just trying to get you to like turn left, right? And you're just like, I don't want to turn left. I don't know if this is even worth a discussion. I just don't, because it's a bunch of media stars trying to get more attention.
Well, I think they're symbolic,
but it's what they represent,
of the bigger thing. Yeah,
it's what they represent.
Yeah,
because
it means something.
Because
I think Tucker has a lot more political capital than people want to admit, and Dave Smith has a lot of political capital among the Libertarian Party. Tucker is, I mean, he used to stump for Trump. He was up there at the DNC, sitting right next to Trump. Trump last night tweeted about, or truthed about him, turning on him and called him kooky Tucker Carlson.
Yep.
Trump is like suddenly turning on all of these people, like Elon and all of these people that are pushing back against the neocon narrative. Because to me, who I see that's one are the Lindsey Grahams, are the Ben Shapiros, are the neocons,
currently,
are the people that
they
want
seem to have
forever war.
The neocons seem to have the president's ear more. But, we are in a period on left and on the right of a populist period, anti-establishment. Angie, you mentioned the New York City mayor's race. Early voting is happening now, and Mamdani, the New York Times editorial board just issued an anti-endorsement of him. They didn't endorse anyone, and they were like, whoever you vote for, don't vote for Mamdani. Okay, so what was fascinating is because it's ranked voting here in New York, right?
Oh,
so
that's right.
They were like, don't rank Mamdani, vote for anyone else, just not him. Vote for Clovis, whatever. So I looked at the comment section, which usually are very establishmentarian in the New York Times. Interestingly, a lot of people had the same place I did. I wasn't so sure about Mamdani until I read that the New York Times was telling us not to vote for him. Oh, now I'm totally voting for him. That's how I am. I was like, he's too young. He's 33 years old. But I'm like, wow. If the establishment is that scared of him, he's got my vote. And I realized that's a Trump style vote in 2020 or 2024. It's a 2016. It's like when you vote for Trump, many people are like, it's a fuck you to the establishment.
Right.
And
I
a
was
vote
one
for
of them.
Mamdani is a fuck you to the establishment. That's where the American people are. Middle, left, and right. They want to send a fuck you to the establishment.
Well, the question I always ask is, how has Iran hurt me? Honestly, how will they hurt me? What have the Iranians done to me to make them my mortal enemy?
So
why have the Russians done make me their enemy?
Nothing.
How will they hurt me? It's a serious question.
So here's Tucker
how do they want to
Carlson.
hurt you?
Yeah. Here's
the
Tucker
people
Carlson on that issue, and this is what made Donald Trump really mad.
Every day they're moments away from a nuclear. We cannot allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Day after day after day. Why not just say no?
I think, by the way, that's true, and Iran would agree with that. Okay, yes, that's what we're saying.
So, but if you went on television right now, if you were back on your old perch on Morning Joe, and you said actually Iran doesn't want a nuclear weapon, they would accuse you immediately of being an agent of Iran.
They might. Because maybe someone would tell them in their little earpiece to say that, because that's how it works.
But you're saying that's true. I mean, you're acting like that's like a non-controversial statement. No, Iran doesn't want to bomb. They've said they don't. They just don't want to get attacked.
They have said for years, remove our sanctions, normalize relations, stop trying to overthrow us, tell your bulldog Israel to stop threatening us with war, and we can have perfectly normal relations, and we don't want a nuclear weapon.
Fox News is telling everyone every day they're
so that's what
powerful.
pissed off.
That's all true.
That's what pissed
Powerful.
off.
Look, listen,
it's all facts.
And if you said anything that would agree to that, then you're labeled an anti-Semite, right?
Yep.
Because you don't completely, absolutely agree with everything I'm saying. And I think that's what
we're
Trump
in a different world now, Angie, because of the genocide in Gaza. I mean, I, for one, used to be scared of doing any cartoons or criticism of Israel because of the anti-Semitism accusation. Now, I'm like making jokes and cartoons like the day is long about it. And so are all of my friends. I mean, it's all over. It's okay to make fun of I'm anti-Semitic, blah, 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 because I support the Palestinians. People aren't scared anymore. That's huge.
Yeah. That is huge. And when do you think that changed? Was it right after October 7th?
No, I think it took about a year of genocide before that started to change, and people had just had enough. If the Israelis had gone in and bombed the shit out of Gaza for 3 months and then left, it would have just blown over. It's the fact that they're still at it.
Yeah. So, Robbie, who's taking care of Americans right now?
Nobody. I mean, that's the question.
That's
that's the whole issue, right? I mean, just kind of puts that. And again, the view that I have is literally on Main Street. I don't have a political party looking out for me. I don't have a donor looking out for my interests. Here in my situation, my wife and I, we got to leave our house in like a month because our landlord just jacked our rent by $600.
Yeah, I had to do the same.
That's the issue. So you have millions of working class people. The jobs are being outsourced. The middle class is hollowed out. Industry is dead. We elect this orange buffoon because we have no other choice. He's saying all the right things. I will fight for you. I hear you. I will listen to you. He gets in, and then he immediately turns into John McCain. It doesn't matter who you vote for. You always get John McCain.
We always get John McCain. Oh my God.
And I'm telling you, whenever you go and you talk to these big shots at the Republican Party, you can tell them that Robbie from Podunk, in the middle of nowhere, Montana, says when you get your asses handed to you on a plate in a year and a half, you're welcome. Because I voted for you, we supported you,
and you didn't deliver.
Yet again, you stand with people who are in my nation's capital with the flag of a foreign country in your office. And then you're going to have the balls to tell me, we have to stand with them because Iran is such a danger, such a threat. Meanwhile, we are getting destroyed economically. No, something, Angie. I would love for a Republican to look at me the way they look at Israel. Honestly, I would.
That's a really great,
I would love that
quote. I love that quote. And I want to use that quote if you don't mind.
Use it. 100%.
And I'm going to tell you, Robbie, it's going to get even worse.
I
You know
know.
what? Because American manufacturing, as much as I like for it to come back, it's not coming back. Most of the business leaders I've been talking to, especially the overseas ones, they're just going to wait it out 4 years. I
Sure.
talked
Well,
to
why wouldn't you?
Japanese leaders. They're like, you know what? He's going to be gone in a couple of years. We'll just hang back. It's all
Well,
good.
that's
Same thing with
well,
the EU. And you know what? They try to push iPhones to be made here in the US,
Mhm.
forgetting the cost of it. I'll still pay $3,000 for an iPhone if I had to, because I need one. Here's the thing. If and when Tim Cooks would ever even bring back the iPhone manufacturing to the US, I don't think he will.
no.
It's going to be AI and robotics, right?
And H-1B
It's not,
visa
they're not
holders.
hiring you or your son or my son.
No.
My kids are not going to be pattern makers for Levi's. Like, they're just not doing that. It's all going to be robotics. And so those are the realities that, guess what? We didn't tell you on the campaign trail.
Yeah,
But we got your vote.
And here's my fear, and I mean this. I've said this on the show before, and I'll go away because I know we're going over.
Yeah, we're over.
No,
Oops,
no,
sorry.
no. We are going to have more and more political violence as more and more people start to realize that the people in Washington D.C. they're really the enemy and they do not care. That's the perception that people are going to have. You're going to start having more assassinations like we had in Minnesota. You're going to have a lot more Luigi's going around. As people, when they realize that there is no one looking out for them, they're going to stop talking, they're going to stop voting, and the population is going to explode. And God help us, because I don't know what happens after that. When you have a leadership of a country that forget about just looks at the population with contempt. At this point, it's almost like abject hatred. The population is going to explode. And that is what scares me the most. And neither political party gives a damn.
So, Robbie, I'm going to say, give it another, what are we at? 160 days, 170 days of the new presidency. I would say just give it until after the summer. A lot of the moving parts that are happening foreignly with the overseas matters does affect what happens here. And we remember just a few days ago, we're just still talking about the trade war. Right. Yeah. So all of this is related. And it is President Trump still trying to bring back American manufacturing, American businesses, all that stuff. I feel like the people surrounding him and advising him miscalculated a little bit. I don't know for sure, because I'm not seeing the long game that they're seeing just yet. I see bits and pieces, but I can tell you from speaking with my sources around the world, they're not buying it. EU's not going to bite. I know the UK jumped. Okay, fine. But no one else jumped in. China, they're just going to be like, okay, you want to tax us 50%, whatever. Yeah. In 4 years, you're gone. Right. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
Just do more business over here and over there.
But here's the thing, though. I mean, if they want to change that, if they want to show that we're serious, instead of Trump trying to rule like a king using executive orders, he would put pressure on Congress to pass legislation, actual acts of Congress to protect American industry. But where the Republicans at? Where's Mike Johnson?
I would go one step further. I would say get the governors to open up the states to make it viable for for businesses to come in. Strip all those regulations, strip a lot of those things, so that if I have a manufacturing company or I just have whatever company, I can go into Tennessee or Florida or wherever and pop. I have new business and I'm going to start investing and I'm going to start hiring and et cetera, et cetera. That's what I would do to have a quick turnaround. My biggest fear is that Trump's going to have a 2-year presidency, and it's starting to look that way. If he doesn't, really shape it up. I get he wanted to do everything within the first 100 days. It didn't happen that way. I just hope he's able to get everything passed within the first 2 years. We're going to see what happens to this big, beautiful bill come July 4th. I think Thune is going to make it happen. That's why I'm saying just wait and see. I think you're never going to have instant America within 100 days. That was never going to happen.
All right.
I'm not asking for that.
We got to go. We got to go.
I'm just saying no new wars. That's all I'm saying. Bye-bye.
No new wars. That's it. No new wars. That's all.
Nice seeing you guys.
Awesome to see you, Angie.
Happy back on. I miss you guys like crazy.
What world are you?
I'm in Boston right now.
Boston.
Yeah, with all the liberals. It's pretty kind of like I gotta like
Making
tone
trouble.
it down. I'm like
And
looking
hang out with
behind
Mayor
my
Wu.
back, going, who's like, who's listening to my conversation.
Hanging out with Mayor
That's,
Wu over
that's the
there.
land of my birth. There in
Ah,
Cambridge.
that's right.
Mhm.
That's right. Yeah. Just doing some summer studies. So I'll be here. But yeah.
Sniffing around as Angie does with the
It's always good to see new things.
Riding the tea.
So. But I hope to see you guys in New York, DC, everywhere.
soon. Yeah, I hope
Definitely.
so. Always appreciate you coming on, Angie, because I mean, you're literally out there, out and about with the GOP, so you know where the pulse is.
Yeah, but I'm
So-
not giving you the GOP talking points. I mean, this is how
this is
I feel.
Angie.
Yeah, this is how I feel. Luckily, I don't have a boss, so I can say these things.
No, but because you're out and around with them, so you know what they are thinking and what how they're synthesizing these world events, and I think to Robbie's point, it's just everywhere we go, we end up bumping into the ghost of John McCain.
I like that. No, I do like that. It's hopefully it's not politics as usual, but it's starting off that way. I think things will turn around. But just give it some time, you guys. It's too early.
It is very young. I mean, it feels like a long time that Trump's been back in office.
However, the problem is we're in a period of crisis. With this war, minutes matter. I mean, we're just one crazy miscalculation away from World War III.
No more
we don't
wars.
really have 3 months to wait.
Well,
Trump really needs to cut the Israelis loose.
That's
not happening. I don't see that
not-
happening.
That's not going to
I don't
happen.
either.
Not going to happen. Angie Wong, who Ted calls Manila sometimes and calls me Angie.
Gee, I wonder why that happens. Oh, wait.
So there's that. Angie, appreciate your time. Have fun in Boston. Let us know when you're back in our neck of the woods, here, there, where Ted is, your motherland in New York.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be taking you guys for a drink soon. So thank you again for having me.
So. Thank
Bye,
you,
Angie.
Angie.
Bye, guys.
Bye. I love Angie. Miss her. We had her on for a lot longer than we should have, but I knew she was traveling because she's an international woman of mystery. She is everywhere.
Yeah, we never know. She never tells us what she's doing or where she's.
No,
just where she is. We don't know why she is. Mm-hmm.
But she pops up like all over the map. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
like
true.
where in the world is Angie Wong?
Totally.
Where in the United States? So anyway, that does it for us.
In Baku, it's cool.
Yeah, she just, I never know.
Yeah, nothing.
She'll just like text me one day and be like, I'm in DC. And I'm like, how long before you got here did you know you were coming here?
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a little one. So you guys forget, because you guys all, I'm talking Angie, you, Robbie, you guys have kids that are old enough to function on their own, to do their own thing. I have a little one. I can't just pick up and go. So like, Angie, if you're still listening, just give me a heads up. Come on. Did you forget what it's like to have a small child? All right, guys, that does it for us. We'll be back. I won't be back tomorrow.
No.
Some doctoring stuff that's not my own.
Fortunately.
Some fortunate / unfortunate.
But I still hope it goes well.
Well, geez. Yeah, I have family stuff to deal with now.
But
so
by the way,
Ted
the thing we
and
talked
Robbie.
about, I'm now 99% sure that's what it is.
Ted and Robbie will be on it'll be the boys show tomorrow. So I will see you guys back on Thursday. Because for whatever reason, Ted, doctors only have 10:15 available. If it's like an emergency, like come back and see me at 10.
They teach you that in medical school.
10:15. Why is it always 10:15?
Well, it's like that song by The Cure. It's it's Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark. It's 10:15. That's the time that it's always been. Do you know the reference?
No. Enola Gay. Oh, the Hiroshima.
Yeah. So all the clocks at the museum in Hiroshima are all stopped at 10:15 in that big display.
Oh, that
That's
gave
the
me
time
chills
that it's
down my
always
leg.
been.
Oh.
Yeah. Oof.
Oh, chills. Well, I feel like they probably teach American doctors in medical school. You keep the 10:15 to 10:45 time frame
In
always
honor
open
of the Hiroshima attack.
So in case there's an emergency such as that, you have emergency walk-ins at 10:15. So it's like every
Not
time
9:45,
10:15.
not 11:20. Yeah.
10:15.
All right. Well, go do that, and then text me. Let me know how it goes.
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. All right, guys. Thanks for being here. The show will be back tomorrow. Manila be back on Thursday. So thanks for being here. Adios, amigos. Bye.